Hi, gorgeous, and welcome to the Confident, Energized, and Sexy Mama Show. I am Dorit Palvanov, your host, feminine energy expert, health coach for women, registered holistic nutritionist, and the creator of the groundbreaking health and mindset program for moms, Energized, designed for perimenopausal women who are done having kids and are ready to get their confidence, energy, and sexy back. Ladies, think about it. What would the world look like if, as women, we stopped being so harsh on ourselves and instead felt more energized, powerful, confident, and more connected to our bodies? What if, as women, we honored the fact that we are built and wired differently than men, and being different does not mean being inferior? That the go, go, go mentality, alongside doing more to have more without ever pausing and resting, only leads to chronic stress, anxiety, burnout, overwhelm, lack of joy, and corrodes our health, relationships, and vitality. What if, as women, wives, and mothers, we had the courage and confidence to desire more? More freedom, power, energy, joy, abundance, pleasure, fun, play, and sex, all on our own terms. Mama, you deserve to feel good. You deserve to form healthy relationships, and your body needs, craves, and deserves pleasure. This is your birthright. You're here because you believe in your feminine energy. You're here because you care about health and the environment, and you're not afraid to take action and change. You're here because you don't want to pass on a pattern of self destruction, hiding, and not speaking your truth to your daughters. You're here because you're done feeling stuck, living a mediocre life as a half woman. You're here because you are done struggling and, frankly, can no longer afford to feel like crap. Each week, I will be here for you, dropping a healthy dose of inspiration and motivation, as well as introducing you to my brilliant guests, where we will dive deep into all things womanhood, feminine power, energy, psychology, holistic and alternative health, food, nutrition, hormones, fitness, mindset, motherhood, relationships, sex, business, and much more. So, Mama, are you ready to take back control of your health? Let's do this. Hey, gorgeous. Welcome to another episode of the Confident, Energized, and Sexy Mama podcast. This is Dorit Palvanov, your host. Today's podcast is actually the first podcast of February. So, if you're listening in real time, February 2020. Today is February the 6th as I'm recording this. And this month, I actually want to dedicate to our kids. So we're going to be talking a lot about motherhood, about raising healthy kids. I'm going to be addressing picky eating, which is a huge problem that a lot of my clients struggle with. Specifically, it's a problem that drains a lot of, our energies, and then, relationship with food and all of that. So stay tuned to next week's episode, where we will be talking about how to help children love food. And I'm going to connect that to Valentine's Day, which happens next week. So all of this good stuff is coming next week. Today's episode is with Andrea Anderson, who is an author, who is an ADHD plus autism coach. And I'm going to explain what that means in a minute. She's the creator of the Restore method. It's a method that helps to improve symptoms of autism and ADHD naturally. Andrea has dedicated the last 10 plus years to healing her sons And she now brings the gift of her experience to other families, helping them to learn the tools to support clearing their child's symptoms and having an easier, better life. Now, I am fully aware of the fact that this episode might trigger a lot of listeners, especially listeners who are very intimate with ADHD and autism. Now, I, thank God, haven't had kids who struggle with these symptoms, with these issues, but I've had clients who do, and I have family members who do, and I have people who friends who are struggling, and colleagues, and I know how difficult that is. And so having someone who claims that she didn't just help her kids, she actually healed them from autism. My intention as an interviewer is not to poke at your pain or to trigger what already is so painful. My intention is to show you that there are people out there who have done it, and if they had done it, you can do it too. So I've really tried in my questions today to get the essence out. We talked about the techniques and clearing toxins and all of that, and that's the how-to. But before the how-to, for me especially, was really important to extract how she had done that with her mindset. So you will hear her story. You will hear the story of two of her boys who have had, severe behavioral issues and autism with her second son, and what she had done as a mother, what kind of action she took to help them reverse it completely. Now, before we get into the episode, I do want to mention that there is an F-bomb thrown in the episode, I think maybe once. So if you have little ones around, make sure you have your headphones on. So I'm going to list this episode as explicit. What else do I want to say? Oh, also, would be really helpful for you to refer to episode 141 if you haven't listened yet to my interview with Amanda Lee, who talked about mineral toxicities, right? So you'll hear Andrea talk about metal toxicity and how metals are really disruptive to brain's health. And I think as another layer to this episode, and just to understand better how minerals and metal and heavy metals are, what role they play in our healing and in our well-being and in our brain's well-being, do make sure to listen to my interview with Amanda Lee. So it was episode 141. So other than hearing Andrea claim that she had healed her sons of autism and behavioral problems, there are other things that will trigger you, that might trigger you on this on the show, in this interview. So just a warning. So we talk about vaccines, and like I said, there is an F-bomb. This is not an interview I suggest, especially if you're struggling with any condition, any condition that your kids are struggling with. I highly encourage you to give it a listen. Do not skip this one, because Andrea is really, I look up to her as this just force of nature, where she brings the piece, that layer into motherhood of, I got this, right? I am in control. I am strong. It's like this mountain, this fierce mountain of, I know what to do and I can, right? Even the scariest things, like, having our children go through really scary things. So again, my intention as the host of the show, as an interviewer, is to help you see what's possible out there, to help you gain that confidence that, so many of us we feel like we've lost once we became parents. And so that sense of loss of control that we all feel post motherhood, post parenting, this is the interview. This is an interview. This is an episode you do not want to miss. So even if you don't agree with everything she says, it's still okay. And give yourself the permission to really pick up on the things that matter to you and that are right for you to hear and listen. And if there is a person in your life who struggle with either autism or behavioral issues, please do them a favor and send this interview their way, because there might be, even one little thing that they hear in this episode, and it could make a huge difference in their life, in their quality of life, as well as in the lives of their kids. So I highly encourage you to take action, not to be a bystander, but actually be a participant, in this conversation. Do let me know what you think. You can find me over at Instagram. So my handle is at Dorit Palvanova Coaching. And let's help more mothers know that they are healers. So I believe that as mothers, we are healers, hence the title for the show. So without further ado, here's my interview with Andrea Anderson. Enjoy. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Confident, Energized, and Sexy Mama Show. And as I say sexy, I'm like swaying my hips because I am joined today by the lovely Andrea Anderson. Am I saying your name correctly? Okay, cool. Yeah. I met Andrea in person last year in Windsor when I was leading this beautiful circle of women, and Andrea was just like, she rocked it with her hips and the body, and I just loved how she dances. And we just kind of stayed connected since then. And then I learned about her work. And so today I'm super excited to introduce you and share her story and her work, her amazing work with you guys. Andrea, I don't know if you know, but I started this journey. My podcast was actually called Health Begins with Mom. And okay. So what you're doing is so in line and so in alignment with my personal belief. And now, with just the trajectory of my business and how, what people were actually looking for, it renamed to Confident, Energized, and Sexy Mama. But Health Begins with Mom is going to forever be, in my heart. And it's just what I believe truly. So I'm super excited for this conversation. So before we begin, why don't you share with the listeners who you are? How did you tell us a little bit about your family, and then how did this start? How did your website and your work even begin?
Right. Okay. So again, I'm Andrea Anderson, and I basically am a mom of two sons that I help to heal of autism. Okay. So they're no longer on the spectrum. They're cleared completely. My older son is now 18. He's a senior in high school here in the States, and he's doing super, super well. So everything's clear for him. And in terms of the way he's showing up now, and I'll backtrack so you have a better view of where things were prior to that. But the way he's showing up now in life is, just, doing really well. He's taking college courses, which I know in Canada, it's a little bit different, but so that would be university level already as a senior. And then he, in addition to that, has broke away from a traditional school and has started two businesses and was accepted to his first university and yada, yada. But anyway, he's a super creative thinker. He's independent. He definitely thinks outside of the box, and he's doing really, really well. He's just, there's this leader in him, and he's just going for it. He's following his heart, and I'm loving watching this happen. And this was a boy who was previously, he had PDD, pervasive developmental disorder. So that's all clear. Like that was just a chapter versus an experience that carried forward throughout his whole life.
Was it diagnosed?
Yes, that was diagnosed. Yep. So like I said, so it's all clear. And that's something, just as a side note, that we don't hear enough, and we're not taught or told that when you get a diagnosis, if you get a diagnosis, or if there's symptoms in your child, that those symptoms can be reversed and cleared, that that diagnosis can go away and our kids can show up differently. It's a matter of learning what you need to do and doing that. But the point is that can be a chapter and not the whole story, right? Not the whole book written in autism, in PDD, in whatever. So that aside, so Forrest, my older son is doing awesome, and my younger son now is a freshman in high school, and he was showing up as having severe autism. So the way he shows up now is that he's cleared off the spectrum, all spectrum stuff, and where he's at now is that he has a little bit of a learning challenge that he's moving through. So he just gets some support academically, but he has a girlfriend. He's had a girlfriend for a year now. My older son's like, oh my God, I haven't even had a girlfriend, and he has one. That aside, and he has such a big heart. Like, it's so wonderful to watch him as he's with his girlfriend and watch how much he cares and how he goes out of his way to make her things and write nice cards. And it's really neat as a mom, as you watch your son and your kids start to express their love and their care for someone else and how they show up with that. And so in addition to that, he loves hockey, he plays basketball, he's got good friends. So it's just, life is different because like I said, he was showing up as having severe autism. So again, that was a chapter that was more than one chapter, but we moved through those chapters, and he's in a really different place now. And I also know that where he's at with his academics, where he's doing okay, it just takes more effort for him, that can even clear. That all of this has everything to do with clearing their bodies. So, which I can get into after if you want to, but there's a lot there. So that can be tricky to kind of just go there. So
I'll be totally, first of all, as you know, I mean, I absolutely love it. I believe it. I know that this is true. We ladies, for all of you listening, especially when we are mothers, we have the power to heal our families. It's that powerful. So my next question, Andrea, for you is, why do you think, okay, let me backtrack a little bit. From the research that I've done and the books that I've read, and I'm very much immersed into, the divine feminine and learning about femininity. I mean, that's what I teach. I teach women to embody their feminine energy.
Right.
So that they can step into their most confident, energized, and sexy self. And from that research that I've done, I've learned that back in the day, that's how women lived. Like our communities were set up in a way that it wasn't even questioned. It wasn't even a question. Does the mother have that kind of power over her kids? Not over, what's the word? With her, thank you. With her children. So I'm really curious to know, why do you think that in our society there is so much distancing and separation between that power that you and I know we have and the mainstream belief? Why aren't we indoctrined like that by our doctors, by our healers, by the people who lead our societies to be better and to be, have more wellness?
Right. So, so my sense is to spend only some time here. And I will. And that is because when we focus so much on what's not working for us, we get more of that. But what I'd like to say with respect to your question, and it's a really viable, important question, is that the doctors and the experts and the teachers and our parents and their parents have all had passed along to them, that you look outside of yourself for the answers. You look to somebody else, whether it's another expert, right? A doctor, an attorney, a research scientist, anybody, right? Like you, or the teacher. We're taught to learn through listening to somebody else and behaving. And we aren't taught at an early age to tune in to our feelings and let those feelings guide us to those deeper feelings. That's intuition. When we hear intuition, and we can talk about how we hear this and how we can notice it and how we can follow it. But when we hear our intuition, that's a direct line to source energy. Intuition is communication from source, saying, here are your answers for you and your family. And when we tune it out, we see that we don't always land in a place we feel good about. And when we tune into it, we watch how things go more smoothly and come together more easily. So these well-intended experts, they themselves have been taught to look outside of themselves for answers. And this is passed on, and it's not just the experts, it's the teachers, it's the parents, it's the grandparents. So we have a whole, generation after generation where we somehow have gotten away, where it first started, not clear, but we've gotten away from trusting ourselves and that we must trust somebody else. So when we realize they have some answers, but they might not have our answers, and they might have some answers for somebody else or not, but they might not be ours. And I can tell you, I have a strong story linked up to this. My younger son, by the way, both my sons were born typical. They were typical little boys, and they were developing regular, hitting milestones, doing well. And when they had certain toxins that went into their body, things shifted. And so, for instance, with my youngest son, before I brought him in, I brought him in for his 6-month wellness checkup at a traditional mainstream doctor's office. And the pediatrician has certain things that they do during that visit. Vaccinations, other components that they check in on with your child. And so we did all the things that are standard to do in that visit, including the vaccines, right? Yeah. So prior to getting those vaccines, I had no reason to question them. I had never questioned anything that a doctor had told me before, anything that an expert had recommended that I do. And in that visit, I was really, really, really hesitant. And I had no concrete reason why. It was just all of a sudden an idea I had was to question the nurse if I needed to do this for my son. And so it was like a prompt, and I didn't know that in those moments. And so we went back and forth, and eventually I said, all right, I succumbed, and I said, I'll just do these vaccinations. And again, remember, I didn't have any knowledge to even question them or any basis to not want to do them. It was just a thought. About 2 weeks after those vaccinations, my son started to shake his head rapidly, roll his eyeballs to the back of his head, and he lost all of his motor coordination. And he went from engaging, laughing, sitting up, moving a little bit, definitely being engaged with everybody. And, like I said, laughing, to laying there. He could no longer sit up or move, really. He could move his arms and legs, but not in the way where he was moving forward or, had a slight mobility, to not even turning to look at me when I called his name, like just distant. So it was like he had withdrawn into a different world. So
you were able, as a mom, obviously, as moms, I can see on my kids' face if they're sick or have something. Like, as moms, we have that kind of connection with our kids. So it was very clear for you that it's a completely different kid.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And when you go from losing motor coordination to not looking at you and see there, and Dorit. Remember like there was this rolling of the eyeballs and,
Mhm.
the head going back. So that every time I saw
That's
that,
scary.
I felt like I wanted to throw up. Like
Yeah.
every time I saw that. So the reason I bring it up is not to go into heavy mode and fear mode. That's not the point. The point is I had a feeling about something before when I went into that doctor's office, but
Mm.
I didn't trust it enough because I felt like I didn't know enough. They knew better than I did.
What was that feeling? Say more about that.
Well, the feeling was to question it and to not
Mm.
do it. But I didn't know that or understand that. But it took that situation for me to start to notice I had a, and I didn't put it in these words at the time, but I can now, that I had a power that I didn't realize. That when I got a feeling about something, that it was time to listen to that feeling and pay attention to it. And the beautiful thing about not paying attention to your intuition is it will show you will get a problem from not listening to your intuition. It will show you contrast. And where you do follow intuition, you will watch how things get easier. So we have this great experiment we live in life. We don't listen to our intuition. We get a feeling to do something or not do something. We end up with a problem. So we can keep doing that and just create problem after problem, or we can have the courage, because it would have taken, and I didn't realize at the time, but it would have taken courage to say no to the nurse and no to the doctor and leave. But I wasn't in that space yet. And I didn't even have a strong enough urge to do that. Now, no problem. We easily, once I realized and connected with what was going on for my son, we left that practice and moved on. No brainer, right? They're not wrong or bad. That approach doesn't work for us. So, but that's what happens. There's a huge difference. And it took things going on with my kids that were different than the norm for them to show up differently in life, to be different, to stand out from others, to help me rise up and start to not care what the fuck everybody else thought, because I knew they were okay. They were going to clear, and whether anybody else accepted them along the way or not, it was time for me to stop worrying about that. But it's almost like I needed them in that place of contrast so I could get stronger. And intuition was like, here you go, honey. This is it. This is what you needed all your life, like to realize you're okay. And so are they. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I mean, to me, it makes total sense, but I know what some
Yeah.
listeners,
Yeah.
I mean, I know that this will trigger a lot of the listeners.
Yeah.
And you
Okay.
know what? I'm okay with that because in healing and in wellness, there is a lot of talk about medication, research, scientific studies, and all of that,
Yeah.
because that is, I guess it's the masculine way of
Yeah.
having reassurance, having to make sure that things are as accurate as possible, as numerical as possible, as
Yeah.
predictable as possible. However,
Yeah.
the part where I feel like as a society, at large, we are hugely overlooking is exactly what you're talking about. It's the intuition, it's the
Yes.
power of energy, of the things that we don't see and we cannot measure, but we all know that we are there, that they're there. I mean, I'm sure each one of the listeners can relate to just having a gut feeling, or
Mm-hmm.
having being drawn to certain things that doesn't even make sense.
Right. That's exactly right. It doesn't make sense at the time often. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it makes a complete sense to me as a listener, as an interviewer, and I hope that the women listening can really resonate. The thing that I do want to ask you is this, and I know that people listening to this are thinking this. It sounds like your boys were born, I hate using this word, but
It's
like you
okay.
said, typical. I don't want to use normal, typical.
Yeah.
And then, after the vaccination, this started. But
Yeah.
what do you have to say to the families where it's very clear that the issue or the condition is it's a born issue. Meaning it didn't start because of, some toxic load being introduced to them. They were just brought into the world with the condition. So what do you have to say about that?
Well, I'll tell you that the condition still came from a toxic load, and it was passed down from generation to generation. Because here's the thing that's unbeknownst to a lot of people. Metals are the core cause of all illness. And if you have metals and then you have a variety of viruses that most of us carry something, that combination creates havoc in a person's body and within their brain specifically. So I will tell you that this is a whole nother conversation. I didn't know we'd go down the path, but this is how we go with interviews, that when you have a child that showed up this way, in a way where it doesn't look like it's linked to vaccinations, it's not linked, but they came in with some different things going on, they will still benefit from clearing their bodies out, because they just carried forward generation to generation metals. That's all that happened. Going way back to the 1800s, in Canada and the US, the medication of choice was mercury elixirs, metal elixirs. And people would drink these elixirs and come back from the doctors and start going mad. So we still carry that forward from generation to generation. And now in the 2000s, almost 2020, it's not always necessarily, you're right, vaccinations were exposed to metals in different forms, whether it's paints on the wall that are not environmentally friendly, or I won't go through the whole
PVCs in the water and the hormones.
Exactly. You got it. So the point is not, again, to be heavy, but to be aware that there are different places that this stuff is brought in. So if mom drank some or ate some, right there, even though it didn't impact her enough, this is developing fetus, but it's not on mom. It's still a generation to generation thing. So I will tell you, just as a side note, that any kids coming in that still have things that seem less typical, they are still going to benefit from clearing the metals, the other toxins out. They absolutely will. Absolutely. Their brains, their organs, all of them. And then the other piece is mindset. There's an energy of what we expect. When we keep looking at our child who's having a hard time and we worry, we create an energy of worry, and we create an energy of stagnancy. So we look at what the problem is and we stay in the problem. We look at what the problem is, we stay in the problem. One thing that I got really fortunate to feel when I learned were off for my sons, the feeling I had was that they were going to heal. And that I was going to do whatever I need to do to make sure it happened. So because I aligned with that energy and that way of thinking, I kept meeting with answers to all my questions and all my next steps to helping to heal them. But if I kept looking at them going, oh my God, what are we going to do? Oh my God, how is their future going to be? Oh my God, this is happening today. We'll never move past it. We as a family would have stayed there. And don't get me wrong, I had plenty of those moments, but I still rose up and moved past. All right. So that's an energy mindset thing. So with all these kids and with everything going on, quite honestly, it comes back to toxins, and there are viruses. Both can be addressed and cleared, and mindset.
Oh, yeah. What you're just saying, I'm just going to share. It resonates so deeply with me. Mm-hmm. In 2018, in April of 2000, last year, my daughter had, my third daughter had a surgery, had a hip surgery.
Okay.
And I remember the difference between myself, my mindset, and my husband's mindset in terms of like how we managed it. My husband was completely, like he was done. Like he was just shattered. He was so sad, so deep in his feeling like what's wrong with us,
what did we do wrong? Especially because, I mean, we are a quote unquote holistic family, right? We eat right, we buy organic, and we do quote unquote all the right things. How could it be that, our daughter was born with this condition? So there was so much guilt and shame and all this unnecessary wasted, potential. And I went into this surgery knowing, and when I say knowing, I mean it. I knew that she is going to be like amazing, that there is not even, I didn't even think of the possibility of the surgery not working.
Right.
And when we came to the doctor a year later after they took the cast off, and the doctor, they took an x-ray and they checked, and he told us, oh, everything is amazing. And it didn't even cross my mind that it could be otherwise. So this is really important. Yes. And I feel like if you could talk about how can we as women and really mothers strengthen ourselves, because I think it's this ability to trust, really. It's this ability to believe in maybe a higher power than you. And also maybe it's like you said, intuition, it's the bridge between yourself and higher source and higher power, right? Or source energy, you call it. Can you talk about how are there what are some practices maybe that we moms can do in order to strengthen that muscle, to create the more positive energy mindset in us?
Right. So it's a matter of what we are most comfortable with, but the easiest way to start to tune in more is to allow yourself time. And if you're not used to this, then just start with 5 minutes and work up to at least 15, meditating every morning. And I don't mean you have to sit and feel like you're trying to be a guru and sit in an Indian, with your legs crossed. I actually lay down in bed. So like, for instance, I get up, and you don't want to do too many things. Maybe you can do a little bit and still keep yourself sort of quiet and in a gentle, more peaceful mode. But, give yourself not too much time before, right after you get up, you lay back down or sit. And like I said, I do it in my bed, and I take 15 minutes and I put on peaceful meditative music, and I close my eyes, and I just ask what is best for me for the day. Everybody, you have something else on your mind, then ask that. And sometimes I hear and sometimes I don't, depending on where I'm at. I hear more often now, or the bottom line is when you're more relaxed, you're going to hear. Even if you don't hear anything or see anything or get messages, you will, I guarantee, eventually. I am not special. You are not special. We are all awesome and special. And the deal is we all have this ability to hear and know more. And so the way we start our day is by connecting, which sets us up in more of a place of alignment, meaning just feeling better in a higher vibration. I have a whole thing about vibration, like where we are, how we're feeling helps to create what we attract and experience throughout the day, throughout our weeks, throughout our years. So when we start in a space that's more peaceful, we're going to create from that space and attract from that space. So start with 5 minutes and lay there with your eyes closed for 5 minutes. If you're just relaxing, well, that's awesome. You already just put yourself in a higher vibration, a place of feeling better. Okay. If meditation isn't for you, I would say put it on the back burner, but turn to it at some point. I just set the timer for 15 minutes. I don't go for 20, 30, 50. I just go for 15, and it's enough. And then I move on with my day. But back when I was getting all these intuitive hits very strongly with my sons, I didn't meditate. So you can still do it without it. But I do it now because I show up differently in life. I attract differently. I laugh more. I have a greater level of confidence and connection, right? So it shifts us because now we're more connected. Another way, and I know you're aware of this, is also journaling. And I go through a particular practice that I learned. It's called the self-coaching model. And it's you specifically ask yourself a few questions. And as you ask those questions, you help yourself to clear through places where you've had like sticking points on certain subjects.
Mhm.
And what that does, Dorit, is it puts our energy and our thoughts into neutral, meaning if we went from like, oh, I'm worried about this, or oh, that's a problem, and we have that anxious feeling or nervous feeling, we're attracting from that vibration. We're creating from that vibration. And when we can put ourselves in neutral, like meaning at least feel relief from the thought that was bugging us, we now attract and create from that neutral space, which allows us to open up to having more, to hearing more, to seeing what the next better steps are for us. The steps that we're going to see when we're anxious and nervous and unaligned, not connected, right? Are the steps that keep us spinning our wheels, doing more, because we're in that energy. So we're going to attract that. So we want to get to neutral. We want to get to feeling more relief. Are you following me on this?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay.
I think this
Okay.
neutral space, the neutral space is the space of objectivity.
Yeah.
Not being so much in like your subject, what if, the worry, but really just enter into a space of like calm, like you said.
Yeah.
And that allows a more, it allows for more clarity. It allows for more.
Yeah.
It's interesting because quiet and peace, it's a very feminine quality, and yet clarity and objectivity, it's a very kind of like masculine space. So it's interesting how it's like the two different energies working together.
But they come together when we feel more calm, we're clear.
Yeah.
So they come, do you know what I mean? You get, when we're calmer, more at peace, we gain clarity. So they couple. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So meditation and journaling. Do you have anything else to add to that?
Well, the thing is, the other way to actually hear your intuition and make choices where you feel good, things flow better, things work better in your family, is you notice when you're drawn to something. This is so basic, and this is what we're not taught. When you have a desire for something, that means it's for you. It's for you. It's not a mistake you have that desire. Remember that a desire is the way intuition speaks to us. And intuition, again, as I said before, is our direct line, our direct communication from source energy. So I did an experiment where for several months I allowed myself to keep following everything that felt good. Everything that felt good. And I mean, even in the moments of, oh my God, I feel tight right now, I'm nervous, or whatever those thoughts were. And I'm like, okay. And I would get quiet and I'd just say to myself, what would feel better? So when I asked that question, I didn't really think about it, but I was asking my inner self, I was asking intuition, what would feel better? And I would hear something. It would be, just put your head on your desk for a minute. It would be, just sit for a few minutes and relax. It would be, go take a nap.
Hey, gorgeous. I'm pausing today's interview to invite you into a brand new offering that I have. And hopefully, it will help you to get this energy that so many of us lose due to feeding our kids. So many of my clients and so many of the listeners of the show struggle with feeding their kids and feeding picky eaters, especially. So I've created a brand new program. It's called From Picky Eater to Healthy Eater. It's an online nutritional program. And basically it is a process that guides parents to create healthy eating habits in children who are fussy and picky eaters. This will help you to make meal times fun. It will help children to enjoy nutritious foods. It will help you to feed your kids. It will help you stop wasting money and actually save some. So if you are struggling to feed your child but have no idea how to fix it, then this is the program for you. If your child struggles with picky eating, inability to participate in social events, eating less than 30 foods in total, if your child struggles with emotional sensitivity, food anxiety, or food phobia, if there is a failure to grow and thrive, if your child is on the lowest percentile for growth, this program can help. If every mealtime is a battle and you constantly get advice like, it's normal, all kids are picky, don't worry, they'll outgrow it. Just give them more food. Don't be a short order cook and your kids will start eating better. Send them to bed hungry. Don't worry, they won't die. And et cetera, all the advice. It's okay to hear this advice, but at the end of the day, the truth is that you're terrified and the struggle is real. It's exhausting and it's scary, and you have no idea what you're doing, and the worry eats you from inside. And so many of my clients shared that the result of this is you might be feeling like you're failing as a parent. You don't feel successful as a parent, and the fear, worry, and guilt, they leave you feeling hopeless and like it's all your fault. Right? So if you resonate with any of these struggles, then this program is for you. Basically, what this program is I've gathered, you, the listener of the show, know that one of my biggest passions is to do this interview and to interview people. And so I've gathered the world's leaders in feeding and nutrition and dietitians and who specialize in food and nutrition, health and feeding. These are strategic conversations with questions that I've had myself as a mom of a previously picky eater. And I have had clients also ask me with regards to how to feed a picky child who is struggling with food and eating. And the reason I've created it is because I wanted you to have the perspective of many different experts. Because when it comes to solving a problem like picky eating, it's there are many different options and ideas and methods and strategies out there. And I wanted you to know everything that is available for you. So this program will save you thousands of dollars. It will send you endless and expensive appointments with therapists, coaches, nutritionists, doctors, dietitians, etc., because basically you would pay one time for just maybe it's going to be a fraction of a session, of a cost of one session, and you will get the opinions of not only opinions and also strategies and practical advice on how to help your child reverse picky eating. Okay? So if this is interesting to you, head on over to my new website. It's healthbeginswithmom.com. So what's going on with Health Begins with Mom, for those of you who are transitioning from the time when the show was called Health Begins with Mom podcast, what is happening now is that healthbeginswithmom.com is a subdivision of my personal brand of doritpalvanov.com. And this website is where I offer solutions for specifically related to nutrition and to kids' health and nutrition. So to get access to this program, head on over to healthbeginswithmom.com/courses/picky-eating-course. And I'll make sure to drop the link in the show notes so you can head over there, check the page out, see if you resonate, and then you can, purchase the course and see and start listening to the interviews and start implementing the strategies. All right. So again, the website is healthbeginswithmom.com/courses/picky-eating-course. All right. Now back to my interview with Andrea.
It would be turn on the TV and watch a funny show. Like I would hear something and then I would just do it. I wouldn't go, oh yeah, I'll do that tonight. Oh yeah, I'll do that tomorrow. I would do it. I'd allow myself this space to do whatever I heard. So every time I did that, I was raising my vibration. I was feeling better because I asked what would help me feel better. And in feeling better, I kept following a trail of watching how I felt better, and the things in my life kept showing up better because I felt better. It was so simple. But what we do is we override the thoughts of what we want with what we should. what we think we should, which are outside thoughts being brought in versus inside thoughts guiding us. And when we do the should, we start to feel like crap.
Yeah. Yeah.
So intuition speaks to us through desire. And we think desire is a nice thing that we put over on the side, but it's our answer. And I mean, in every moment, I don't even mean to have that house, to have that car, to have that trip around the world, whatever it is, those, yes, those are still yeses, but in the every moment, what would feel better? That's intuition speaking to us. When we hear that, which we will if we ask, and then we have the courage to listen, things shift. But we get to feel better in the meanwhile, and we get our answers. To go back to how to help our family, when we ask, what would feel better for me and my daughter, for me and my son? What would work better? How could this come together? We'll hear, and then we do it. And if we don't hear it, because we've got a lot going on in our minds, watch what you're drawn to. What you're drawn to. You know, you might have 3 doctors before you, and you're like, oh, which one do I go with? Which one are you drawn to? Which one do you resonate most with? That is your answer. It might not be the top doctor. It might not even be a doctor. It might be somebody else over here who's some other type of healer. And you can't explain why you're drawn to them over them, but it's because that's what's needed. That's how intuition shows us. And that's where we find our answers.
Oh,
Yeah.
I love it so much. I just have like this whole body experience right now. I'm like, because it's so true. It's so true. And I know that we have in our community moms who are raising kids with ADD and I think on the spectrum also. And I'm so glad and I'm so grateful that you're sharing this, because I think that this is really the kind of empowerment that they need. But it's really challenging to share that information and empower these moms without making them feel that it's in any way their fault that their kid ended up or was born with a certain condition, right? So I think it's so amazing. So thank you. And what I'm also hearing you saying, that it's a practice, for sure. It's a practice. It's not like do it once a month or once a year kind of thing. It's a practice, a daily practice that helps to strengthen this muscle. And also that it's really all about cultivating self-trust instead of self-doubt.
Yes, bingo.
It's there. And another thing that I was just making notes as you were talking, it really sounds to me that we're talking about the difference between healing and curing. Do you want to say something about that?
Yeah, well, it's a little bit of semantics. It's the way, I just say healing, quite honestly, because it feels right. It feels like healing. We're clearing. We're shifting to a different space. And my interpretation, and again, it has to do with interpretation, curing just feels more clinical. Okay, you are doing better now, versus a wholesome, all organic, all encompassing, life is better now. So that's my interpretation. That's my feeling around it. And everybody's going to have an opinion on how to interpret that. No problem. Go for it. But that's how I feel.
Yeah, I love that too. To me also, healing sounds just, I don't know, it's just like, that's what I'm drawn to say. Healing, it's that's what it is. It's a whole encompassing kind of process. Okay. Another thing I want to ask you, I know that a lot of the work that you've done with your sons and with your clients also, it's the work of, or maybe synthesizing some of the work of Anthony Williams, aka the medical medium.
Absolutely.
Can you just a little bit share with the listeners who do not know who that is, who he is, and what is his work all about, and why every single mom out there needs to know his work?
Yeah. So Anthony William is a medical medium, and I think of him as the medical medium. So, meaning he has such a strong connection to source. He hears directly in voice, not in thought, not in ideas, not in images, but clearly he gets a download. So if he were to be here, not even here, he could be, where he is at right now in his home, but we were to connect with him, he would get a download of what's going on for me internally, for you internally, and everybody on the call, everybody he's in connection with. And he would see clearly what's going on within your body, and he would hear how to help you naturally. Okay. So he's now written several books. I have all of them. He's freaking fantastic. And I will tell you, I have worked with several holistic doctors over the years, people from chiropractors to holistic MDs to naturopaths to other holistic healers we've done a gamut of things. And each time I followed my intuition with who to go to next or what we needed to do next. And as I helped my sons, I helped them. We got to a really great place. They're doing really well. And I knew there was a little bit more to go with helping them, but it didn't feel like it was time. Something told me to back up and let them be. In that time, well, I'll say prior to that, I said, there's still something else to do. It'll come through. There'll be another way to do this that's even easier, that feels right. I'm not going to worry about it. I'm hearing back up. So I did. Within that time, Anthony William came out with his first book called The Medical Medium. Fantastic book. I recommend it to.
Yeah, I'll link up to that in the show notes.
Yeah. And so that was my answer. I read that book, and in that book, he explained so many questions that I had that I felt like all the doctors I had been to, the research I had done was still not answering for me. He nailed it. And not only did he nail it, I could feel it. When you connect to something and it's a big yes, that's intuition telling you that's for you. That I intuitively connected with him as a big yes. And I won't go through his whole story other than, for him, this happened at an early age. He realized he had this gift and he hated it because he couldn't even watch television without getting a download of everybody on television and what they needed. And, to help them heal naturally. He would walk down the street. He'd be in school everywhere he went. When there was a human being, he'd get a download. So it was really hard. Think of a child and a teenager and a young adult trying to sort that out. So that aside, I will tell you, I can attest from my personal experience, he knows his stuff. And that's just from applying what he's used and from resonating so strongly with what he has to say. Yeah.
Is he a doctor?
No, he's just a medical medium. But he's in the realm of, now because he's written all these books and more people know about him, he has, celebrities and famous musicians and Olympic athletes in the works who go to him and have connected with him. And he even has top surgeons who connect with him when they can't find an answer to something. They've connected with him and gotten their answer. So he is the go-to for many people. So that nowadays becomes the way people become known. Oh, you go to him and you're that person. I want to go to that person, that sort of thing, right? The whole referral process. But that aside, yeah, he's fantastic. So honestly, I didn't have his protocol years ago, but I got to that space when it was right. And we started to follow his protocol. And it was the next clearing step that was necessary. Now, when I work with clients, I use his protocol because it's gentler, it's easier, and it gets to what we need more extensively, more thoroughly. So it's fantastic. He's fantastic. Yeah.
Can you, just to make it a little bit more tangible for people, can you just give maybe one or two examples of how this protocol looks like? Because I know, even for me as a listener, I immediately imagine, oh my gosh, it's probably so like labor intensive, it's expensive, it's going to take so much of my time. Can you just share some things that, some examples of how this actually looks like in real life?
Yeah.
Just to, kind of alleviate that kind of stress.
Right. So we do as a family take specific supplements that he recommends based on what you have going on within your body. So we take certain supplements, and I won't go through that list, but there's some supplements, and it's easier once you figure out what you need. Often all your kids need practically the same thing. So you just give them all the same thing in the morning, like you put it in droppers and you give it to them. So it can be a lot easier than you imagine. That aside, there are certain foods that if you make a smoothie out of them or bring them in, at least 2 of them into your child and your body regularly, pretty consistently via the smoothie, as I mentioned, you will make a difference. They help to remove metals. They specifically target the removal of metals, replenishing the body with nutrients, and then repairing where the metals once existed, which you can't get with synthetic medicine. It just doesn't happen. So they go well beyond. And so I'll tell you just 2 foods because I don't want to inundate when there's too much info, you get like, oh, but 2 basic foods to bring in that are really powerful metal removing foods are wild blueberries, specifically wild blueberries. And you can just buy them in frozen bags. Like go to, a health food store or a regular grocery store they now sell.
So cultivated blueberries are no good. They need to be wild.
They're good for you, but they don't remove the metals. They have a different composition. It's wild blueberries. And I won't get on my soapbox. I get excited about this stuff, but there's a lot to wild blueberries. There's these foods he recommends have a physical component that helps to help us and our kids, our physiology, right? Clearing metals, but there's always a spiritual and emotional component to all these foods too. And so wild blueberries grow on scrub bushes and in places where it's harsher conditions, Maine and Canada. And basically what happens, and I'm just saying this very quickly because I know we need to wrap up real soon. Basically they withstand harsh elements. Okay. Mm-hmm. And if you were to burn a wild blueberry bush to the ground, it would return, no problem, full force, robust, beautiful, within a year or 2, like back to normal. So the energy that wild blueberries carry are not only do they remove metals from the body and repair what needs to be repaired, but they carry forward the energy of, I can survive. Of course I will survive, and I can withstand any conditions and be A-okay. So you get that energy from that food too. And that's something that the medical medium has taught me, is that food isn't just food that you bring in for health reasons and nutrients, but plants carry emotional qualities and spiritual qualities. And when you're drawn to something, it might be because of the spiritual component that it will carry forward into you as you eat it. Yeah. So wild blueberries, get back on track.
And I'm just thinking about blueberries. You guys, which child does not like blueberries? I mean, we're not talking about celery. We're not talking about kale. I'm sure. I know. Oh, actually, I know. Right. The medical medium has a whole book about celery. But I mean, here we're talking about blueberries. So this is the food that kids love. Okay, cool. So give us another.
And easy to put that one into a smoothie.
Right.
So I'm going to say to go with barley grass juice extract powder. So yes, it's green, but when you mix it with the wild blueberries and you pop a banana in there and maybe it's almond milk or coconut milk, it tastes pretty good. And the other thing is you can add either raw honey or maple syrup, which both carry beautiful, beautiful minerals. Raw honey off the charts, amazing for you. Great for our brains, great for our emotions. Replaces glucose, which helps our moods, regulate our moods. I'm giving you like an overload of info, so I'll slow down. But the deal is you can do that. You can do maple syrup or raw honey if you need to sweeten it for your child. If you don't, then skip it. And then that alternative milk base, right? Coconut, almond, something like that. A teaspoon of barley grass juice extract powder and a cup of the frozen wild blueberries. And now you just brought in specifically two foods that help to clear metals from the body. You have that consistently over time, just that will eventually make a difference. Okay. And then the raw honey or the maple syrup are going to be bringing in valuable energy and nutrients to the brain and to the body anyway. So, I mean, That's a great thing. Bananas, same thing. You don't gain weight from bananas, by the way. They help to moderate your weight. That's another story.
Yeah, oh my gosh, there's so much to be said about food. It's interesting when you said that when we are drawn to certain foods,
Yeah.
there is also a channel that is opened there in terms of like being honest with yourself. Um, what does it say when you're really drawn to animal foods? I'm just curious for my own knowledge.
Well, it tends to mean that it's a habit, because there's also there's a piece of what we're drawn to, and there's a piece of what we're conditioned to. So you may be in a place of still needing your animal protein, but we don't need as much animal protein once we can get into a habit of having a little bit less. That's not always easy for people. I don't say don't have any. If your body craves it, then you absolutely have it, and you clearly need it, but we don't need a lot, quite honestly. And when the more we have, we actually can congest different organs in our body. And it also tells me that there's probably a little bit of a buildup somewhere, so that habit is in the body, so the habit is being reinforced. So when the body's cleared a little bit more, you may still crave some animal protein, but it would be at a different level, probably a more moderate level. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Okay, my last question before we move to the second part of the interview: is there anything you want to share with women, wives, mothers listening to this that I have not asked you?
Yeah, no, I feel like we've talked about a lot of different things. So the thing I want to say now is that you don't have to do everything I just said. You don't have to run around and try to put all those foods into your body, your kid's body. You don't have to worry about trying to meditate. You don't have to worry about going to journal. I would say, if there's one thing that's going to help you the most, it's to step back and notice if something stood out in this interview for you. If there was even one thought that you were connected to, aligned with, and whatever that piece is that stands out the most for you, just do that, because that's all you need right now. That's all you need. And if something pops up for you later with respect to something else, then go there. But to try to do so much at once will not help you to move forward. You'll end up moving backwards, right? Like, we'll feel overwhelmed. So if there's just one thing, do that one thing, right? And maybe there was nothing we said that you resonate with. That's okay too. There'll be something else along the way that you hear that catches your attention, that something about it is, you're drawn to it. That's the place to go. And maybe I said something that somebody resonated with 5 different things. Great. What's the one thing that stood out the most? Just do that.
Love it. Such great advice. Thank you so much, Andrea.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we're moving on to the second part, and this one is going to be quicker. So I have a set of questions that are really designed to help me and the listeners also to get a window into you as a woman. So we know about your expertise. We know about the amazing work that you have done with your own family and also with other families. And now we just want to know more of who you are. So you ready? Okay. And the answers to these questions should be short, which I know is challenging.
We'll see. Okay.
Okay. First one, what is your definition of feminine power?
Feeling good. And it sounds so basic, but that's all it needs to be. It's feeling good, because when we as women feel good, we're in our power.
Yes.
When we are not feeling good, we're not in our power. We're in fear. We're in worry. We're in something smaller than our power. So feeling good is feminine power. And the better we feel, the more we're in our feminine power. So, on those days and those moments when you're like, yes, what are you feeling? You're feeling really freaking fantastic. And then we want to know, well, how did we get here? It was because we allowed ourselves to focus on things that felt good. We allowed ourselves to do things that felt good. And so we felt good.
Love it. Second question. As you know, this show is all about inspiring mothers to own their power and feel more confident, energized, and sexy as women, wives, and mothers. And I like to call it being a goddess. So I'm curious to know, how are you being a goddess in your own life? How do you take care of yourself, your soul, your body? What are some of your non-negotiables?
Oof, how do I? Well, I love to feel good, so I'm drawn to things that help me to feel good. And I allow myself to say yes to so many of those things that help me to feel good. So, like for instance, it's the meditating in the morning. It's the I eat lots of organic food, but I am also a vegan because that feels good for me. And I love green juices, and I have a celery juice every morning. And I'm not trying to say everybody has to do all these things, but I feel good. They make me feel good. They don't make me feel good. They help me to feel even better, to show up as who I am and to connect to this in this space of feeling really great. Um, I do things that feel good. Like if I'm doing the dishes, I'll put on music and I'll dance. So I take dance breaks while I'm doing the dishes because I love to dance. My kids grew up watching me dance around the living room, dance in the driveway, dance in the car. So they just tune it out. Like, okay, it's just a thing, like it's just a thing that mom does. Right. So, and they're not, and they're not even so much like, oh, mom, it's just like, yeah, that's what she does, that sort of thing. And if I'm having a hard time with something, because I'm not always going to be in this space of alignment and power, I will journal. And like I said, I ask myself specific questions to help clear something so I can go into neutral. And as I go into neutral, now I've relaxed. And from this more neutral, relaxed space, now I can reach for more. I'm in a vibration that feels better. And in reaching for more, I might think, okay, well, what do I like about this person that might have been bugging me, or somebody else? And I will specifically look for things, and I will say it out loud while I'm taking a shower, while I'm doing my hair, while I'm getting ready and putting on my lotion. I will be going through things that I like about that person or about my life, and I will make it a habit. And when I do that, and then I go out into the world, I feel awesome. And I'm going to tell you why. Because I took time to put my focus on things that felt better. And in putting my focus on things that felt better, I show up feeling better, which is us in our power. You're standing in the grocery store line, and it's so easy to talk to everybody there because you feel like a light, or you go to a party and you want to hear about everybody because you truly are interested, because all you did was take time to do things that felt good to you.
Yeah. All right. Third question. What makes you feel confident?
Oh, just what I said.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what makes you feel energized? Also the same?
It's all encompassing. To ask myself the question, remember how I told you I did an experiment for a while?
Yeah.
What would feel good? What would feel better? And I heard the answer, and then I did it, right? On some days it was take a nap. I didn't even take a nap as a kid. I didn't even want to. And then as an adult, I didn't think it was just an option. It wasn't on my radar. But when I would hear the words take a nap, it was always because I felt friggin' exhausted and just didn't tune into it. And then I felt better. And then I woke up in this calm, gentle space. And then I created from that softer space. And from soft, I eventually went to feeling even better often in that same day. And that was a low to high. And that's not always going to happen. But it's following what feels better. It's not a trite saying. It's not a special thing to do on special days. If you take that and let that be a mantra that you, not just words you say, but something you actually activate and listen to, it will take you and your feelings to a whole nother level. Do it for 2 days even and watch what happens.
Yeah, it's so true. My next question, and I kind of have a feeling of what you're going to say. What makes you feel sexy?
Feeling good.
It's all one.
Yeah, so
I thought you were going to say dancing.
Yeah, well, feeling good and dancing is something that when I check in with myself, it's always a hell yes. So for me, finding what feels good. And so again, and how do we know what feels good? Watch what we're drawn to. I'm drawn to dancing. You're right. I dance and something in me just comes alive to another level. I've noticed if I have music on when I am having sex, I like sex better. It's so fun. Right. So, but even that aside, if I play music and I'm doing the dishes, I want to dance, and then I start to dance and I come alive even more. If I'm at a party and they have music going and I start to dance, I come alive. So you're right. Dancing is something I love. So simply for all of us, it's going back to what feels good for you. Some people might hate dancing, no problem. What feels good for you? Is it standing on stage speaking? Is it maybe not at all? Is it painting paintings? Is it ice skating? Like, what feels good? You do that and you come to life. And when you come to life, like you, the real you, now you start to feel sexy because you're feeling so good.
Yeah, you're fully embodied in who you are.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, my last question, Andrea, and then I'm going to let you go. In one sentence, what is your vision for your life? What are you creating?
Yeah. We go back to feeling good, but honestly, I believe our purpose for all of us, and definitely for me and our family, is to feel good. And if we can find and check in with those things that help us to feel good, we're going to fly, because we all have our unique passions and interests. And to simply ask that question each day throughout the day, what would feel good? We're going to get there. We're going to keep creating spaces and places and things that feel awesome. So my vision is for me and my family to continue to tap into who we are and follow what feels good for us and create from there.
Beautiful. Love it. Andrea, where can people find and connect with you online? What's your social media handles? Now is the time to share all of that.
Okay. So my website is ihealedmysons.com. So I, and then healed, HEALED, mysons.com. That's my website. And then you can also email me if you choose to at ihealedmysons@gmail.com. ihealedmysons@gmail.com. And those are the best, those are two places to connect with me. I'm just trying to think. Oh yeah, by the way, I forget sometimes. I do have a book that I wrote that it's called I Healed My Sons of Autism, and you can too. The 7 Keys to Clearing ADHD and Autism Naturally, which is available either through Amazon or through Borders, Barnes and Noble, or my website. So those are places to connect with me. If somebody wants to learn more, email me and pose some questions and we can start a conversation.
Beautiful, beautiful. Andrea, this has been so much fun. And also a lot of it was validating for me. I really appreciate your courage and your, I know for sure that, I've went through your YouTube page, YouTube channel, and I've seen the hate messages and it triggers a lot of people.
I don't even look at it. Yeah. Like, oh, well.
And it makes sense. It's just, it really requires a lot of courage and a lot of just faith, a lot of trust and faith in knowing that this is the way. This is the way. And so I just really want to congratulate you, and I'm so proud of you as a fellow woman, as a fellow mom. Thank you so much for what you're doing, for what you're bringing into the world, and for supporting the families who, oh my gosh, I can't even imagine having kids struggle with such debilitating. It affects everything. It affects your life. I have a friend who is not even able to go to restaurants because she's so concerned about her daughter's behavior.
I remember.
It's just it affects all of you, and it's just such a blessing for having the service that you offer. From the bottom of my heart, thank you, and thank you for coming.
Thank you too. Thank you. This was fun. I had a great time.
Thank you.
Okay, take care. Blessings to all that you're up to as well. I love it.
Thank you.
Wait, before you go, I hope you've enjoyed this episode, and if you did, I want to know about it. So snap a picture of you listening to this episode and share it on Instagram or Facebook. On Instagram, you can tag me at Dorit Palvanov Coaching. So Dorit is spelled as Dorit and Palvanov spelled as Palvanov Coaching. So it's all one word. Or you can use the hashtag Confident, Energized, and Sexy Mama Podcast. You see, my personal goal beyond having amazing conversations with guests or hosting solo episodes is to increase the visibility for this platform and these messages to be shared and heard by women who need it the most. And there's no way that I can do this on my own. So I'm asking you, the incredible community of confident, energized, and sexy mamas, to help me with this goal. So whether you're coming to me through iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, wherever you're listening to the show from, please rate, review, and subscribe to the show. This would mean the world to me, and it's so helpful for other mothers who are looking for this information. So thank you so much for listening, and I'll catch you next time. Bye for now.